Hey everyone, BlendMaster here with another tutorial, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to create this cool typography effect inside of Blender. So basically on the internet I saw a picture similar to this, and it looked like someone took a dry erase marker and tried to draw some text in 3D over a clear piece of glass, and then they had the background blurred out. So this is what it looks like, and I knew I could make it in Blender, so I figured out a way, and I'm going to show you guys. So in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to create the text and how to create this outline in the first place. And then I'm also going to show you in the Compositor how we can get this distortion to make it look like it's hand-drawn. So let's get started. First thing we want to do is delete this cube in the lamp, and then I'm going to switch over to Cycles Render as well. Now we can press Shift A to add some text, and press R and X to rotate it along the X-axis. And I'll press 90 so that we can rotate it exactly 90 degrees. Now at this point you can tab into edit mode and switch the text to whatever you would like, but for the sake of the tutorial I'm going to type in dry erase because that's the text effect we're going to try to achieve. Now we can press Alt-C to convert this to a mesh and tab into edit mode, press A to select everything, and then press E and extrude it out a little bit. Now taking a look at this text, the shading is looking a little bit weird, and that's because the normals are a little messed up. So to fix that, we want to press A to select everything, then press W and flip normals. Now that's looking a lot better. So now what we want to do is tab out of edit mode and press Shift D to make a duplicate, and then press H to hide it for now, because we're going to need to use that later on. And then we can select our text again and tab back into edit mode. Go to top view and orthographic view by pressing 7 and 5 on the numpad, and then pressing this button down here to switch it to face select mode. And if we go to wireframe, we can deselect everything and press B to bring up the box select option, and just left click and drag along these middle faces to select them. Now we want to delete the faces that are facing us and in the back, so to do that we have to press Ctrl I to invert our selection. And now we can press X and delete those faces. So basically what we want to do with this text object is we want to convert this to a curve and bevel it so that we can get an outline for our text. But if we were to do that right now, it would only bevel this front edge and the back edge. It wouldn't bevel these edges that are connecting it. So to do that we have to separate all of these faces individually from each other. So to do that we'll press A to select everything, and then Alt-E to bring up this extrude menu, and press individual faces. And then if we press right click, it'll just apply that command. Now we can press Ctrl I to invert our selection and press X to delete the faces so that we only have these individual faces that aren't connected to each other, which is exactly what we want. But if we were to convert this to a curve right now and bevel it, all of these faces that are part of this curve would also have their edges beveled, so it would look really weird. So to fix that, what we want to do is to combine all of these edges that are part of a curve into one object by removing their doubles. So I'm going to press Z to go to wireframe mode, then go to front view, and I'll just deselect everything by pressing A, and then press C to bring up this circle select option, and just select all of these faces that are part of the curved edge. And then we can press W to bring up this menu and press remove doubles. So we'll press A to deselect everything, and then we'll do it again with all the other curved edges. So C to bring up the circle option, then left click and drag to select all of these faces, then right click to accept that selection, and W and remove doubles. So now if we take a look at one of these faces, you can see that they're all connected to each other. And when you press Ctrl L, it selects everything that it's connected to. So if you want to make sure that all the faces are connected that you want connected, just press Ctrl L and you can see if they're actually connected to each other. So now I'm just going to do the same thing for all of these other curved faces, like on this R for example, and just press W, remove doubles, then same thing right up there. And for this Y we don't have to do anything since all of these faces are perfectly flat and there's no smooth edges. But we'll have to do it again for this R. So just quickly select everything and remove the doubles. just like that. And we'll have to do the same thing with this A as well. So just select those faces and remove them. And these faces, not those. We want to zoom in here and just select that, remove the doubles, and then select all of these faces here, remove them, and do the same thing again here, and just connect all of them again. And then you have to make sure that you don't forget this inside area as well. So just remember to do that. So I'm going to pause the recording right now and I'll come back when I'm done. Alright, so I'm done connecting all of these curved edges together, so we can tab out of edit mode now and press Alt-C and convert it to a curve. And now we can also add in a circle curve, and we want to scale this down to about 0.01, so that's really small because this curve is going to be our bevel object for this text. So after selecting the text, we can come over to the curve settings here, and under this bevel object option we'll select our circle, and you can immediately see that we're getting the bevel that we wanted. So I'm just going to give this a new material. I'm going to switch it to emission and change the color to black, and I'll also unhide our other text object and give it a new material. This one's going to have a holdout material. And under the render settings, I'll scroll down to where it says film and check transparent. So now we can set up the camera wherever we want. I'm just going to press Ctrl-Alt-0 to snap our camera to view and just position it where I want it. I want to just rotate it like this maybe, so we can get a view of it on an angle, and maybe zoom in a little bit like this. And if we press Shift-Z, we can go into rendered view to see what it's looking like. And I might rotate it like that a little bit and then move it up. And I think that's looking pretty good. Maybe rotate a little bit like that and zoom out a little bit. Okay, so basically at this point you can just play around to get something that you think looks good. I think that looks fine for now. So I'm just going to decrease the samples to about 10 and render this out real quickly. And now we can also head over to the Compositor. I'm going to check Use Nodes and Backdrop and press Control up arrow to make it full screen, and Control Shift and left click to add the background to our Compositor. So what we want to do right now is give it some displacement. So to do that, we're going to need a texture. So just come back here and in the texture panel just add a new texture and switch it to clouds. Now we can come back to the node editor here and import our texture. Make sure it's selected, and then we're going to add in a Displace node, and this texture is going to go into the vector, so it'll affect our displacement. And I'm also going to add a value node so that we can plug it into the X and Y scale here and just quickly adjust them really easily. So basically what this value does is it affects how much that this image is going to be displaced over the cloud texture. So the bigger the number, the farther it's moved across it, and the smaller it is, the less it's moved across. So I'm going to leave it at about 5 for now. And for this texture scale, we want to adjust it so that it's going to be some smaller looking clouds. So to do that, I'm going to increase it to 2.5 by 1.25. And we can take a look at that now. And we can see we're getting some rough outlines or distortion. I might want to increase that to 5 by 2.5 instead. And you can see it's looking a little bit more rough. And that's also looking like the effect that we want, because we want it to look like it was hand drawn. So I think that's good. And now we can duplicate all of these one more time, because we want to adjust it so that it looks a little bit more distorted. So we're going to have to adjust this scale to about 0.5 by 0.25. If we can take a look at that, you can see that it's much bigger. So I'm just going to plug this image into this displacement node here, and I'm going to increase this value to about 50, and we can take a look. So you can see that there's a lot more displacement, and basically for this part of the tutorial you can play around with these values until you get something you want. There's no right or wrong for this part, it's just trial and error, playing around until you see something that you like. So I think that's looking good. I might decrease this a little bit more, so 0.25 by 0.125, and I think I might go back to 0.5 by 0.25, and I think this is better. So I'm just going to leave it like this right now, and since we're going to be using an alpha over node, we also have to make sure that our alpha image is displaced, because otherwise it's not going to follow along the edges of our displaced text and it'll look really weird. So just duplicate this displacement node here, take our alpha image and plug it in here, and then just make sure that all the same textures and values are plugged into the right socket. So just like that. And now we can add in a alpha over node here, plug this into the factor, plug this into the bottom, and we can add an image for the background. And the image that I'm going to be using is actually the result from my rock tutorial. So if you want to learn how to make this image, I'll put a link in the description below to that tutorial. And I say it's looking pretty good, but right now this background's not fitting well with the scene. I actually want to adjust it a little. So we're going to actually blur it out by adding a blur node and setting it to fast Gaussian, relative, and setting it to 5 by 5. And we can also add in a color balance node and just boost the blues in every section so that we get something that looks like this. And I'm also going to decrease the saturation a little bit to 0.75. And I'll add in a RGB curves node as well. I'm just going to move all of these back like that. And on this RGB curve node, I'm going to increase the reds to about there, increase the greens slightly, and then increase the blues all the way to about here. And I think that's looking pretty good. So if you wanted, you can stop here, or you could play around with these settings to affect the background color, and just have fun playing around with these settings until you get an effect that you like. So I'm just going to plug this into the composite node now, and I'm going to increase the samples to about 100, and I'll render it out and come back when it's done. Alright, so it's done rendering and it looks really good, guys. But as you can see, due to the displacement node, it's shifted up our image to the top right. So to get around that, I'm going to just quickly show you what I did. I'm going to actually add in a translate node here and duplicate it down here as well. And then I'm going to add in a value node and plug this, value node, and plug this into both the X sockets like that. And then duplicate it and plug one into both of the Y sockets there. And now we can play around with this until that it's centered again. So I'm going to try -50 for both of these values, and I think that should center it right about where I want it. And yeah, that looks pretty good. So thanks guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any suggestions for future tutorials, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.